traumatic grief. It's a huge weakness that we don't know where to go. We need a voice, and we need a person to go to that has that voice.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, the system is definitely very hard to navigate, especially when you're going through the trauma itself. So definitely that is a big, big challenge.
One would be relevant data, because your data that I've been hearing for the last day and a half is pretty much skewed. When you have that data, your data drives decisions for funding for X, Y, and Z. So, and you are working on that, which is good.
What other weaknesses have people thought of?
So in my job, I do a lot of outreach to Navajo Nation entities and representatives, and sometimes my emails don't necessarily always get there in a timely manner because of that, I think they call it the ice box, where everything gets held up. And then there's that in addition to slow responsiveness to emails.
And then taking that step further, staff turnover, and so that the person may no longer be there. And we even talked about that yesterday about fax machines, that the packets then are being sent out and they're being sent to a fax machine that's no longer working. So then really understanding what are those, ensuring that we have up-to-date, adequate points of contact for everyone.
I think it's like really important to acknowledge that we are a matrilineal tribe, but I think when we do that, we kind of exclude the men, the fathers, the sons, and we absolutely need them. I think just my general understanding of this is that most of these crimes are committed by men, and we can't always just. I think it's over a long term that they come to make those decisions, and we just need to be able to get men involved so that they can also spread that awareness and gather their own support so that they're all here as well.
And thank you for stating that, because this whole movement started with violence against women, and so the violence that was being perpetrated against women. But now we're starting to realize and understand that we need to include the men, because thinking as natives, we are about the community, right? And men are part of that community. So understanding that men, although statistically are the perpetrators in most of these acts of violence, but we also have to realize that they are victims as well. And we need to allow men the safety to come forward and share their stories of victimization and how that may have led to them now being perpetrators. So really understanding those acts of trauma, and then also recognizing other populations that may not be here. The disabled community, they're not present. LGBTQ community, I'm here, but I'm one person as a facilitator. Who else could we bring to the table? So recognizing who is not here at this table.
I just want to add that one of the things that we need to do is we need to also plan for the inevitables as families. K'eh is not only just good stuff. K'eh is also a model that teaches correcting the wrong. And as family members, we have to begin to address these issues and put plans in place for something that may happen that we don't even want to deal with. Whether that means that we have to save funding, we should have monies available all the time for some type of an emergency. But we don't think that way. We're not planning that way. We want to be here, spend our money immediately, and not even think about something in the past or something in the future that could affect our families. So I think planning is something that we really need to understand, and how that works in a positive and negative way.
Yes, thank you for that.
I think funding, resources, collaboration with each other. We have MDT meetings that include law enforcement, including FBI and attorneys and social services, and a lot of our issues are because of lack of collaboration and communication and working with each other, and stop creating roadblocks that are unnecessary.
Awesome. And we have a comment back here.
A lot of our young people turn to Facebook for traditional teachings, and they're really trying to learn. And I think we, as Diné, have all the answers from our teachings, but young people are scolded. Why don't you know Navajo? You should know this already. And they're put on the spot, and they're embarrassed. And we always say we need to teach it, but the younger parents are scolded for not knowing, and it's not their fault that they don't know Navajo. It's not their fault that they don't know the traditional teachings, but the answers are there.
So looking at aspects of acculturation and assimilation and how that impacts us as a movement moving forward when we want to highlight our Navajo culture and tradition.
I know what I forgot. Awareness. I thought I knew a lot until I attended one of Kurt's trainings, Kurt and Maddie, and we were brought into a light that I had not known about regarding the LGBTQ plus community, and that awareness I think would be helpful in all aspects, school, education, tribal, even elders, and just everyday people.
And if you want to see that training, no, I'm kidding. Okay, we'll move on. So we looked at strengths and weaknesses internally as a group, as a collective. So now let's turn, did you have a comment, Tab? Oh, sorry about that.
Just to echo off your concern about, it would be capacity. You have a lack of officers, social workers under the Navajo Nation. And I would echo that because I work at a school. We had a similar situation, but I call law enforcement. There's not enough law enforcement. Call social services. I can't do it because X, Y, and Z. So the solution to that, I'm just a reality-based person. You have to provide why people don't work for the Navajo Nation, because the jobs are not competitive compared to state or neighboring areas or federal positions. And so you're not gonna retain them because they can't take care of their families, period. The benefits are bad, X, Y, and Z. I echo that because we get people, our federal jobs are small, but we have a lot of tribal workers who want to work with the federal side because benefits are higher and pay is higher. But once you get those two that's really super competitive, people will stay and work as a social worker, will work as a police officer, because now they can support themselves and their families. So that's just an overall echo of how you can retain old, young, whoever, to recruit them to work within these capacities. But is it because if you don't start there, they're not going to come and work here. That's my last resort. I'll work over there for a bit until I get this job over here, or until this Fed job opens over here. But if you're super competitive, better than the Fed and everything else, they're going to stay with you. That's how it's going to work. Then you'll have those capacities to help us, because right now the reality is you don't have those qualified people to work in those capacities. Okay, thank you.
Great talk, great sentiment there as far as looking at internal capacity. So that definitely is a challenge for us. So now that we've talked about strengths and weaknesses internally, let's look externally. As we begin to develop this MMDR Data Institute, what are some benefits of having a data institute in place? What would be some good benefits of having this MMDR Data Institute in place?
Funding.
Yes, the magical word, funding.
You can identify the real problems and start taking care of them. instead of, there are a lot of theories, but that data will help us understand better what the problems are and target the problems instead of some of the red herrings that we might think of.
You can create a model for other tribes to follow as well.
Yes, so all of these, let's see. I'm making my way towards you, Jennifer.
I just want to add that, following Mr. Strand's comments, that it would really help us as policy analysts to begin to look at where we need to make changes, legislation that is really pertinent to Indigenous peoples. And so I think that's one thing about looking at these patterns and looking at the existing laws and making recommendations as to where these changes have to be made.
You are speaking my language right there. I love it.
What were we talking about, Kurt?
Oh, benefits of having the MMDR Institute.
Oh, okay, well, I'm a historian, so it's always helpful to see patterns. And so I think I'm always having people, non-Indians, come to me and they say they want to do research on Navajo people and can I help them with this and that? And I say, what is your, what will your research do for the Navajo Nation and Navajo people? In all the years, 100 years of your research, has it changed the conditions of our lives as Navajo people? Or is it just to benefit and fluff your own career nest? So the ethics and responsibility that comes with doing this work has to be part of your life, and it has to be a commitment to your nation and to your community to do this work, and that has to be the researchers' responsibility too. That they give us what we've asked them to do, and they give it to us freely, and don't expect us, to give that they're benefiting from this as well, and it's not just for their career that they do this. So this is a constant thing that I have to deal with as a Diné researcher. So that's important. There was another. The other thing is that and this is really hard to do because the Human Rights Commission in urban spaces, because Navajo people who live on the streets and most of the Native people on the streets in Albuquerque are Diné, and there's a lot of men in those groups. They come through my neighborhood. Sometimes, one morning, I live off of a busy street in Albuquerque, and one morning I thought I heard singing, Navajo singing at 7 in the morning. I'm like, am I really hearing Navajo singing? And then it stops and I go back to sleep, and then I hear it again. I'm like, I am hearing Navajo singing. So I go look out in the front in my living room, and there's a group of Navajo people, mostly men, about 10 of them, who live on the streets, and they're just coming through my neighborhood. So I go look to my kitchen. I'm going to make them some coffee, and I just have a small coffee pot, and I have no paper cups. So I'm going to go out anyway. So I get dressed, and I drive my car around to where they're across the street from me, and I said, hey, good morning. Would you guys like some coffee? And they say, we would really love some coffee. I said, okay, there's a McDonald's right there. I'm going to get you guys some coffee. How many cups? They said 10 cups. And then one of them comes over, and he says, could you please put in some pancakes too? And I'm like, of course, pancakes go with coffee, So I go over to the McDonald's, and I get their coffee and everything, and I give it to them. And I said, the only thing I ask is that when you're done, you put it in the bag and you put it across the street, and I will dispose of it. And they said, no problem. So that's what they did, So our most vulnerable population are our people on the streets. They are the most vulnerable to police violence. They are the most vulnerable to assaults, to murders, and to shootings. And so the Human Rights Commission has worked with families who've come to, it's hard. We've worked with families that come to us. We've advocated for them. We've made sure that they have connections with the prosecutor, and we made sure there's a victim's advocate. We made sure there was a translator, and they have to drive long distances from the Navajo Nation to go to the courthouse in, this is the state of New Mexico, it's not federal. We've done that work before, and we're doing it now, and it's just hard work to work with families' grief and their concerns, and they're not getting justice, okay? So we have several cases that we've done that with, and those might also, the work that we've done might serve as models too. One of the things tangible that came out of the Navajo Nations were listening to what happened to L'Oreal Sinajini was the establishment of a Citizens Liaisons Committee where Navajo citizens who live in Winslow have direct access to the chief of police and to the police department. Okay, so that's something that's tangible that was done. One last thing that I want to say is that when you're an individual and you work on these issues and people think that you have a magic wand and you don't have a magic wand and they're frustrated and they're mad, they start coming after you personally. They start insulting you, they start assaulting you, they start stalking you. Okay, so I've had to step back because people have done that to me, have stalked me, have insulted me, have assaulted me, have ridiculed me, have said things about me publicly, because I don't have a magic wand. I'm just one person who's trying to support and help. So, you know, we have to be careful of our own protection as well. And know your rights for homeless people or people on the streets is really important too, because they experience the most violence, including police violence.
I'm loving this discussion as a person that does a lot of capacity building and evaluation. I'm loving the discussion about analyzing trends and mapping and looking at where we can identify the most need, and where we can bolster resources. But I also, Dr. Diné, you touched on a point that I wanted to add to the dangers, or to the weaknesses here, or it can be on both, is burnout and self-care. Because you talked about that and how we, working in this movement, don't have all the answers, but people are grasping and latching onto us and wanting us to have that magic wand and have that answer and that antidote, but we don't have that. So it's really about knowing and understanding that for ourselves, and really just being able to take that step back and say, I need a timeout for me just so that I can heal. Because we take on the trauma of other people as we're working with them. So we need to understand that and really be realistic of that.
And with the burnout and self-care, I would also add demoralization, because it's really hard working with people when the systems are so broken, and toxic environments, toxic culture workplaces.
One of the benefits, I think, is open communication, and that's what we're here today learning about. You know, before that, I have never heard of MMDR before. So today I have learned a lot, and then taking this back to our community.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's one of the main intents of these forums, is to provide that awareness and education as well. So do we have any other items for benefits of having the MMDR?
People can have justice and closure, with the information that is gathered, and hopefully help their situation.
Awesome. One last one.
I'm also thinking a data institute would help to correct, reframe, and control narratives in the media about this issue.
Yes, all about creating and making sure that the media is speaking our narrative and our truth.
One of the things that I haven't heard that I just heard now, and I think it's a really big question about a vision, because if we start planning for the future, we're laying a path, okay? And if we start with the values of today, of what we hold, and we're addressing the problems, the issues that we're talking about now, and we do that with the same values that we're doing it with, in the future, we will have the same problems and the issues. Okay, so I just heard the last person that spoke said the word justice. And I think the vision also you need to think about is, what does justice look like? What does indigenous liberation look like? What does the liberation and justice look like? So we're laying the path for the next generations. What does that look like? And and of course our history is the future, as Nick Estes says. And so I think that's a really important question: is what does justice look like? What does liberation look like?
Okay, so with that last sentiment, and thank you for that, Dr. Diné, let's move on to what are some potential dangers of having a MMDR Data Institute in place. What could be some potential dangers looking from the outside in? I heard one, just to kind of get your mind rolling, Dr. Diné earlier talked about research, that as a research person, that collecting this information, now we can create the story about what's actually happening here on Navajo. And in doing so, could threaten and debunk current non-native indigenous research that's out there about us. And so it may debunk their narrative, and so there could be a potential danger from outside researchers saying, well, everything that we publish is now all wrong. So again, it's about creating our narrative and our truth. So that could be one potential danger. Love it.
Sorry. One of the things that we keep saying is women are sacred, children are sacred, elders are sacred, LGBTQ are sacred, but we actually haven't demonstrated that, because we're talking about missing and murdered, and domestic violence is one of the largest things that happen on Navajo, okay? So if you think about how women's bodies, women and LGBTQ are under threat, we are undervalued because of what we represent. If we were to truly value women and LGBTQ and children, what would that look like? And we're a threat. That's why we're not valued the way we say we are. What does that mean when I say that in terms of a transformation in leadership, a transformation in community engagement, a transformation in the way we just do things every day, if we truly, truly valued women, LGBTQ, elders, and children? Our bodies are a threat.
We would be holding up a mirror to ourselves and having to face that reality. Love it.
I was going to say that one of the dangers could be that if you don't control and own the MMDR Data Institute, that's going to be really problematic. So owning it and controlling it, because whoever owns and controls the data has the information, and information is power. And so if you don't own it and control it.
And then how is that shared internally within all tribal entities as well?
I don't know if this would be really considered like a danger, but maybe like a challenge, or maybe a danger at first, but exposing a lot of the issues for some people that are not prepared to see this, especially culturally. We know that our people, there's some things, you don't talk about, and a lot of the things are going to surface through this database, and how we're going to have to be prepared for that too.
Recognizing that monsters still exist in our present day world.
I'm taking a hyper leap here. Okay, indigeneity. With respect to Navajo culture and with the data collection, and coming from the human rights perspective, I personally believe that it's really important that one of the data fields that we need to gather is clan, the maternal clan, very important. And that goes back to having this data center very central to our indigenous being, our culture, us as a sovereign nation. We don't want to get to a point where we're going to have a data field that's going to, in some ways, eliminate our, we come to our own demise because we buy into a system, a Western system there. We do not want to do that. We want to make sure that this data field is appropriate for our Navajo people. I'm speaking from Navajo human rights perspective. And so looking at that from that venue and how we're going to preserve our culture, preserve our people, preserve our sovereignty is very important. And in our office, we don't talk about just 3 years ahead. We think about 7 generations ahead of what policy decisions we're going to make now and recommendations that are going to affect a generation 7 years from now.
Awesome, thank you. And one thing I want to point out to our viewers online on Facebook or through NAU, definitely if you would like to contribute and type in some questions or contributions to the discussion, we do have staff available online working the laptop and watching the feed. So please, if you would like to add any of your comments or input, please do so, because we want to include you into this discussion, and that you're not just a passive viewer to this discussion. We want you to be actively engaged as well.
Workplace violence.
Just a cultural sensitivity, and when you do that, you'll have to work with the elders and their perspectives from the cultural aspects of oral tradition, and give them sense of ownership, saying we were a part of this. Don't exclude that cohort, because if you do, it's going to be a danger. It's going to be a matter of interpretation.
There's one thing that I want to just mention, but I'm not going to talk about it extensively, because this is a Diné experience and Diné observation. And this is part of some of the stories that I've heard about about our relatives who've been missing or murdered. And this is the point about witchery and evil. This is something that's internal to Navajo people that we would talk about within our own intimate spaces. And this is not for someone to listen to so they can make another Tony Hillerman novel. And so that is a reality of part of our observations and our experiences that we need to talk about, but not in a group like this, okay? Because I don't want it to be people peering in and then go, oh my God, they're still exotic and weird. But that is some of the parts of what I have heard when I've listened to relatives talking about missing and murdered relatives. And so that should happen privately and in specific spaces.
Thank you. Any last comments to add to this discussion before we move on? See none. Zoe, would you like to just do a quick debrief on our overview and highlight some of the items that we put on there?
So for our strengths, we had dedication from volunteers, social media campaign, people available to train school administrators and teachers, LGBTQI2 issues, making doable connections, passionate and invested in what we're doing, lots of people in community help, Office of Parent Family Services would be a success, technology, other technologies available. We have a lot of young professionals. They are action-oriented. We have older adults. We want to utilize each generation at the level that they're comfortable with. For weaknesses, we have support for family, especially, so one of the weaknesses is that we don't have support for family, especially when an event first happens. Who do we trust? There are legal issues. This is a huge weakness. Families don't know where to go. The families need a voice. Irrelevant data, the icebox, slow response, and sometimes no response from various entities that are contacted. The matrilineal society can exclude men. Fathers and sons are excluded. We need to get men involved. We need to plan for the inevitable. Families, we need to put plans in place for emergencies, both positive and negative. Funding, resources, collaboration, communication, create unnecessary roadblocks at times. Sometimes scolding young people about not knowing their language or teachings is a weakness. Awareness can be a weakness. Navajo Nation jobs are not competitive and sometimes have poor benefits, and we cannot retain some of our professionals. Capacity, police and social services are not enough. Benefits we talked about were funding. If we are successful, one of the benefits might be funding. We're creating a pathway for next generations, what justice and liberation look like. A benefit could be to identify the real problem, and target that problem. A benefit could be to create the model for other tribes to follow. Look at areas for legislative changes based on the data. A benefit might be to see patterns, commitment to community, responsibility to ethics as researchers. Our work could serve as a model for tangible success. Open communication, learning, justice would be a benefit, closure could help the situation, and then we could also correct, reframe media narratives with the truth. And dangers, if we are successful, a danger could be burnout, so we need to pay attention to self-care. We don't always have all the answers. We don't have a magic wand. We need to understand for ourselves and sometimes step back. Demoralization, toxic environments can also be dangers. Research could threaten or debunk narratives. We would create our own narrative, our truth, demonstrate that the women and LGBTQ are sacred. Currently they are devalued. Currently they are viewed as a threat, and this would be a transformation. If we don't own or control our data institute, that could be a danger because data is power. We could expose issues for those not prepared to see those issues, gather maternal clans as part of our data, not buy into Western systems, policy decisions for the next 7 generations. A danger could be workplace violence. A danger could be cultural sensitivity, oral traditions. We do not want to exclude the elders. And another danger could be discussing evil or witchery in public, because there could, that's something that needs to be a private discussion.
And from our online viewers, Mimi asked that we add a potential danger, technology security for the database, to a potential opportunity for hacking. So if we could add that to our danger, technology security. Yeah. So thank you for that, Mimi. So again, those are our viewers online, please feel free to contribute your thoughts to our discussion here. And with that, I will turn it over to Randy to take us to our next level of discussion.
Okay. Wow, I heard you guys are really smart. Dang. I was like, wow, but there's responsibility and it's just not all positive. That's stuck in my head. That's true. And how you look at that, and when that comment came, and I thought about the young lady that said that we should put the missing people, write their clans on there. So, if I see something like that, if I see Twitch Eatney is missing, I would think, oh, that was excellent. And all the comments and what you need to do was written. That was good. So, okay, we have the victory circle. This is what we like to see, in place, how we want it, how it's going to be for all our people, and then also what is the current realities, what's stopping us, or what can we use our strengths and benefits to reach that, to overcome our weaknesses and the threat and the dangers. We talked about that. So now we're going to move on to the focus question. What steps and action items do we need to accomplish to apply the discretionary funds to begin creating MMDR Data Institute by October 2019? this information that we're gathering, when we come out to go to this vision here, we need, it was mentioned already, right? Funding. So what can Amber use, or the council, and our people that support it, and the group that's working on this, what steps and actions do we need to accomplish to apply to discretionary funds to begin to creating the MDR Data Institute? So we need to commit ourselves into doing that. That doesn't mean that you're sitting here is going to be over there at the council chambers or anything, but what we want to do, what we want to commit, maybe support it from a distance, like there's people watching us all over, and they're probably thinking the same thing. You know, what would Amber need to strengthen this, and what do we need to do?
I think the very first thing that Council Delegate Amber Crotty needs is our affirmation that we support her completely and wholly, and that we will do what we can to support her on this initiative, that we don't become rogue and go off and say, I'm going to do my own thing based on this because she's not doing it the way we want. So we really need to affirm our support of Amber. Bless her heart for putting this forward. I really appreciate her.
Good. What else do we need to do? What are we committed to do, or how are we going to provide support for this?
I have a kind of a question on that to think about. Do you want internal funding within the Navajo Nation, or do you want external funding? Realizing there's pros and cons with each one. You know, external funding comes with policies, comes with requirements, comes with, you know, if you want to keep the data sacred, you can't probably do that with a grant. So, but also internally, is there funds available? So just the question in my mind, are we looking at internal, external, or a combination of both?
Okay, this is what the discretionary fund is Navajo Nation government. So it'll probably, from a sense, from looking at it from the outside, it would be internal funding, how to start it. This is like the foundation of where we're going to go from that point on. It's going to give us a springboard. So what support do we need to do, or what commitment do we need to do, have a statement to go forward with this? Reaching have a consensus agreement of what are we committed to do.
A resolution that they can use to start to work on their end.
We need resolution, and resolution from which chapter, group, or the council itself?
Probably all the agencies that would be presented to the councilmen's.
So if we could have support resolutions from all the agency councils to support on this, they also have a buy-in and commitment to support this initiative. Right?
Okay, if your goal is to get it by October 19th, you'll have to have a strategic action plan. When you have a strategic action plan where Amber Crotty can provide the council or the council with relevant data right now from here to there, maybe just numbers, but we can work with Ms. Crotty to create a strategic action plan. So when you do a strategic action plan, this is what we are now, this is where we're going to be next year and the following year. So you put goals and objectives that are tangible. So within that strategic action plan, it's tangible for whoever's going to be reading. Because you can go in and say, yeah, X, Y, and Z is very subjective. That's not going to fly. So helping her get to that planning period where she creates that document of a strategic action plan with everybody in here providing assistance and guidance. So that's more powerful than just going in and winging it, I guess you could say.
So it have something we're committed to developing, like a strategic plan, action plan, in order to help support the group that's going to go forward and ask for this funding by October 2019, based on the information that's been gathered from the two firms. Okay, next.
But I also think that you need to have a collaboration of data from different agencies, programs, and I think that's the most important right there, because then you see what the real problem is.
We are committed to providing data from other organizations that we can provide from other groups, other organizations that is here to, and combining it and providing that information to the people that are going to be presenting this.
Maybe by then having a specific team or a specific stated members who are willing to be responsible to actually follow through with some of the planned.
Okay, so we'll meet, we'll be committed to, after actually putting, implementing this into making it, giving it support in that manner.
As part of that strategic plan, one of the things that the group needs to do is that we need to do an environmental scan on existing programs with respect to what do they do, what kind of data do they have, what is missing that would really help strengthen our story to get the funding. So we need to look at all the programs that are out there and do an environmental scan to see where they're at, what they're doing, how well accomplished have they been able to achieve their objectives, and make that available to council.
I was hiding behind you. Okay, so we have these, what we are committed to do, and how we're going to support it, and how we're going to have a springboard into doing this. We'd like to have information and support we're assuming that Amber's going to present this, so Amber Cotty, and resolutions. We're committed to providing resolutions for form and from all agency councils, and then also having a format in the strategic action plan form with tangible goals, in doing an environmental scan, and then also data from collaborating agencies, knowing that, it's instead of her going up there, it's just not coming from social service, it's actually coming from social service, law enforcement, judicial, and other agencies, and that can, other organizations that can provide that. And then having a specific team, a team that can actually support her and be with her, and identifying those key players into making this happen in their commitment. So we have that as our commitment. So do we need to put this in a statement? Or is it already, do you feel like you need to put it in a statement? Or we have one more.
I think a good way of showing how this would help the communities is to show how this affects the families that are left behind, the communities that are left behind, and how we have to deal with the trauma that is perpetuated from these events. That would show why we need this, why we need the funding. We're helping our people. We're helping all kinds of women and tribal members out there, and that's why we need this. We need to show them what's going on, make them aware of the problem, and focus that MMDR Data Institute in a helpful way. Not just that we're collecting information. We need to see why we need this group and why we need this information. We need to have that awareness out there.
Along with that, that's a great idea. Along with that, maybe try to think through what would happen if it's not done. You know, the continued pain, the continued, and maybe even the problem getting worse. So what would happen if it's not done, and it's not done now?
Okay, so we need to have the powers of the people who provides the funding and so forth, that, you know, they need to realize that there are victims and victims' families that are actually telling their stories, that those that are willing to do it, and that it is a reality. It is currently, trauma is being experienced right now at this moment. And what would happen if we don't address this? Talking about the dangers and the threat, it's just going to get worse for our people. So they need to understand that. So show why this is needed, and also why, how did you say and what will happen when it's not done? And, okay, so now back to the statement. So we'd have this is the commitment from this group or from the people in general, that what we're going to have as a commitment, what the group that's supporting this is willing to do, is committed to do to make this happen. Here are the focus questions. So do we need to put it into a statement? Or is it because this is sort of like your statement? We're just up here trying to facilitate what you all are bringing to us, and we can help do that. So we have a whole bunch of flip chart sheets that we can put up to make a statement and edit it and everything. So as a group, do we feel comfortable with this as it is up here? Or do we need to put it into a commitment statement? One statement. Okay, so those writers and stuff like that, we have to have it just right. What are your feelings on it? Or is it okay?
I think one of the things also that to move this into a focus question and the commitments is that we also need to put together what's available. And so, you know, maybe a commitment from everyone to put forth in one box every single thing that you think you have that will contribute to our knowledge of this is where we're at, and this is so that we can create a sense of a pattern. I have a lot of stuff, you know, and other people have stuff that they could all put together so that we can look, someone can look at it and say, oh, here's the landscape. You know, so we're still talking about what the landscape looks like. The other thing that I'm seeing right now is that we're also talking about this, when we're talking about missing and murdered, it's been because of the way Indigenous people are situated and categorized, and we're moving past this, which is a good thing, is that we tend to think about Navajo, Diné, and urban spaces, but talking about missing and murdered bridges that imaginary boundary. And so I think that's a really good thing that we're beginning to think about outside of those imposed categories and realizing that we move back and forth and that there's missing and murdered on Navajo and there's missing and murdered in urban spaces. And that's profound, that we're actually shifting the paradigm of how studies are done.
Okay, so it's unifying our urban relatives, and then also what's going on our reservations and stuff in our nations. Do we want to grab another that we can put in a statement? Maybe a couple you can start shuffling on how the statement is going to read, of how we can put this in the commitment statement, is so we can start writing that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, what we're going to say is, how the statement's going to say is it's going to start with We are committed to, go ahead, we're at that. We are committed to and using thinking strategic words. You know, we are committed to affirmation and supporting. We don't have to say Amber. And also provide. Anyway, if you're looking at this, how do we put that into a statement? Because we have affirmation, we see support, we see resolution, agency council, and then we see a strategic action plan in there, and then data collaborating from agencies. What's available? What can they provide now, I guess? And also has specific the team having identified. We are committed to developing a team. This is an example. We are committed to developing a team, a specific team to what? Putting this statement together. Who's good at making a sentence or a statement? Just, you know, maybe just put 2 sentences together or whatever, and then maybe at the end we'll have a full statement. I see her brain working. She's like,
we are committed to a vision of a healthy nation and communities where, somebody fill that in. We are committed to a vision of a healthy nation and communities where, and what is this vision of what is it that we want? We are committed to a vision of a healthy nation and communities where brainstorming.
Yeah, we're putting it together. We are committed to a vision of healthy nation and communities. So going back to what's already listed, how do we add that in there?
There's another way to look at this. It's called if-then statement. If would be, I just give an example, if we support the MMDR Data Institute to provide technical assistance for the future, then we are committed to the advisor of healthy nations and communities. So that would be like an if-then statement if you want to take it that route. This is a different way of doing this too. It would, it's just another way of doing it. It's called if-then statement. It's kind of the same, similar to what you're doing. Because the if is if we provide the support, then the end result is that's what's going to be the outcome.
Well, this is the commitment statement that what are we committed to do? We are committed to a vision of healthy nation and communities by this.
It's just a start. I don't know if it'll fit, but we are committed to a vision of healthy nation and communities wherein all missing and murdered relatives are heard, supported, and understood. This is a thought.
Okay. So we are committed to a vision of a healthy nation and communities into
and their families are heard, fully supported, and understood.
Okay, so our statement right now, based on what's listed under here, on this side here, this will be our commitment statement referring to what's listed here. It says we are committed to a vision of a healthy nation and communities where all missing and murdered relatives and their families are heard fully, supported, and understood.
I would suggest we take it sort of the next level up, because that implies that missing and murdered relatives in our vision will still be there. So what if we said a vision of a healthy nation and communities in which our relatives are not victims, are not victims of being missing and murdered. So our vision is to actually eliminate the problem.
So this is another statement. I mean, the same.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there as do we vision so big as to think that our relatives do not continue to be missing and murdered, but it's a nation in which our relatives are not victims of being missing and murdered. So it leads more to the elimination of the problem.
Yes.
It's sort of the analogy in other kinds of health concerns in which we say we want to reduce risk factors of diabetes, but you could have a bigger vision of we want to eliminate diabetes.
Yes.
So this portion of the facilitation is looking at individual commitment activities that we can do as a collective to move towards this question. It's not about creating a vision or a mission statement, and I feel that's where the conversation is going. It's more about individual commitments that we as a collective can do, committing to attending meetings, committing to providing data for the contribution to the Data Institute. So those are what we were trying to pull from this section, not necessarily creating a vision or a mission statement. So it's, because I just wanted to refocus this portion of it because I felt like we were starting to go along that trajectory of creating a vision or a mission statement, but it's really about, as a collective here, what are those tangible tasks that we can commit to as a collective, agreeing to let's all be present at the meetings, or ensuring that we bring survivor and victim voices to the table to be part of this data collection process. It's really about what are those tangible commitments. So we found some here that we could expand upon, or if we felt comfortable with these as being individual commitments, we commit to affirm and support what the movement that Delegate Crotty is currently embarking on. We commit to working with our current chapters and agency councils to create resolutions in support of this Data Institute. We commit to providing information that will help assist in developing an environmental scan and in the future, leading up to a strategic plan to help evolve and elevate this Data Institute. We commit to being part of this commitment team that we will represent our communities as part of this process. So those are what we were looking for as part of commitments, not necessarily creating a vision statement. So I hope that helps to clarify some things here.
So all the information that needs to be written, you really don't need to add any more words or a statement because you have it all right here and here now. So it's just a matter of connecting it and making it into a statement of what you have here. We are committed to providing information and support to and providing resolutions with a strategic action plan and data from all the agencies with a team to present this, something like that, along that line. So we don't need to add any additional wording to it or add sentences to it because all the information is there.
Well, I just wanted to change the last sentence to in which our relatives are prevented from becoming victims.
Just switch it over to our
are prevented from
becoming victims. We feel like the word prevention should be implemented somewhere in there, and that's what she felt was being left. She felt like it was missing.
I think with the last sentence, I don't think that we should do it as a pathologizing, to use the word relatives. I think that in that last sentence, we should say that that we are all related to each other based on and that we strive to be accept all of our relatives unconditionally with love, with our principle of something like that, I think would be good. So take out the word victims, but to affirm it and say that we are related to each other through our Diné principles of something like that.
Yes. So who were said the victim about that last portion, removing the word victim from there? Who was it that is everybody feel comfortable with what was just stated now? To change it to more in that sense?
I just wanted to say that I think that it'd be really important to change the term from victims to something else, just because some of the negative connotations that's tied to the term victim. I'm not sure what, like, relatives would be a great way to replace that, or just, talking about somebody who's experienced violence and just naming it that way instead of victim.
She says survivors will be good. Okay. So you're looking at this in a document form. Again, we're kind of going back to the victory. You're looking at what we have here as in a document form, as a statement. How should it read? That's what we're trying to implement that and write that commitment statement. So do we just write it as it is and have the person add the proper verbs and adjectives and so forth to it, or how do we want it written? We can, that's like I was saying, that we have the word information, we have the word support, or what do you see in here that we can circle that kind of like represents each other? Just what do we need? In this statement right here, what stands out? The words that are on these flip charts. What stands out? Like I was saying, somebody said that we have to, for Amber, we have to have information and support. Or information of support. Is that important? Should that be in the statement? Yes, somebody said yes, and do we need to circle that? Do you want us to circle that one? I still see some people like, don't know what you're trying to tell me. Okay, what else do we need to circle?
I do believe that we do need to support Amber Cardi in this initiative, but I do believe that we should be supporting Mesquite with Navajo Nation Missing Persons, who's been doing this work for years now, and that's where you guys are going to be getting your information for your database. So, and she needs a lot of support, so we can't forget about her.
Okay, so this is a commitment statement. This is what we as a group are committed to. So all of this process that we're doing is like breathing. So we inhaled, we did a lot of inhaling, all that stuff. We were bringing together all these ideas, all different, getting as many ideas as we can. And now what we're doing is we're exhaling. So what we're trying to do right now is to narrow this stuff down and breathe out. So what we're trying to do is create a unified commitment statement that kind of weaves together all the things that we were talking about this morning, that weaves together these ideas here, and we'll put it on one sheet of paper.
Yeah, so it is, we were talking about her, other groups, other organizations that are wanting the same thing, that to make this happen here, because Miski's going to be in here, and then so this is the springboard. We're already doing it. We're already working on it. We already did a forum. We met. We're meeting and stuff like that. So now we're looking for funding, and then this is the statement we're going to use. A statement that we're going to combine together, and we like to see. What we like for the group to do is write a statement. It says, we are committed to. Yeah. So this is, okay.
So I don't have the entire statement, but I'm thinking the first two are very related in declaring support. So actively declaring support whenever possible of Amber, of Mesky, and also declaring support at your local community level, your agency. Yeah, actively declaring whenever possible. Yeah, she got it. Yeah.
She said she's got it. Okay, I see more hands.
I just got a text message from someone who's listening to us, I guess on live stream, and she said some of the words: justice, accountability, human rights for families, and have remedy. So, we can call for, in the second statement, we call for, the first thing we call for, because these are the actions that we're going to take, is we are calling for our nations, because we also have to call upon the U.S. as well as the Navajo Nation and other indigenous nations to be responsible and to be accountable to Diné families and our relatives who are experiencing this. So human rights and Diné fundamental law, Diné principles, I think might be something. So the second sentence might be something of what we're asking for, what we're demanding. So that would be like the second after the. It would be like the second sentence after the "we are committed to a vision of a healthy nation," all of that, and then the next thing is we demand or we call for, and then the first one is we're doing this because we want to hold up the families and the relatives who are experiencing missing and murdered. So that would be the next sentence, and then your commitments.
I was just going to ask that after we make a change from the commitment statement, if we could just read it, like if somebody could just read it through, just so that we can hear it and decide whether or not it fits and stuff.
Yeah, that's what we're doing is we're trying to put a statement together. And then after we write that, after we put that statement on there, and then if everybody feels comfortable with it, we can rewrite it again. We can rewrite it several times until it looks good. Yes. Okay. So right now we have we are committed to actively declaring support, calling for nations to be responsible and accountable, resolutions from all agency councils, a strategic plan with tangible goals, with environmental scans, and with data from collaborating agencies, and having a specific team, then stating or what will happen if not done, show why this is needed. So we are committed to actively declaring support, calling for nations to be responsible and accountable. What else do we need to get from there to put onto here?
I just want to throw out verbs, maybe kind of, I don't have like, so I feel like providing, we're committed to providing, kind of being the resource, providing the leadership, providing guidance, because I think that's kind of what I'm understanding in terms of what we're committed. I mean, we are, I guess, as I'm understanding, we're a resource. We want to be an advocate, lead the way for the nation and what we're going to do, and what we're setting out to do in meeting to meet victory. So I'm just going to throw that out. I don't know.
That's good. Along that line, yes.
Just wanted to add, I think it would be really important to emphasize providing like resources and guidance rather than leadership, just because when it comes to missing and murdered Diné relatives, I think that the leadership should be in the hands of the family whose relative is missing. And we should take the leadership from them. And Navajo Nation should be willing to listen to the family and what they want and seek justice from them.
Just add providing and guidance and resource. And she wanted the leadership kind of like removed because the leadership, she feels that it should be coming from the victim's family and also the victim survivors from that point. Okay, so we took leadership out. So right now we have a commitment. We are committed to actively declaring support, calling for nations to be responsible and accountable by providing, or we're going to provide guidance and being a resource. So, is this it? Is this our statement? No?
I was just going to say it might be easier to just put providing guidance and resources instead of being a resource, because Navajo Nation should actually be providing all of the resources that the family would need to address like the issue, like connecting them to the Human Rights Commission, but also connecting them to like counseling or whatever.
Okay. All right, so we are committed to actively declaring support and calling for all nations to be responsible and accountable, but providing guidance and resources. Is that our commitment statement? This is going to be the commitment statement. These are all recommendations and are what came up, but we're saying all of this information here are these statements are included in the small commitment statement.
it seems like the commitment statement is the prelude, but the actual tasks are on that piece of paper all the way to the left. So those are the tasks. So we're committed to doing this, and these are the tasks on how we expect to do it. Does that make sense? So I think that still has to remain instead of removing it, because by removing it, by just having that as a statement, we're going to miss all those other great tasks. Those are the tasks that we're committed to. Does that make sense?
Yes. So, in the commitment statement, there should be a little bit of the task written in the commitment statement. So that's where we were circling what were the words. We only have information and support that was circled. So what else needs to be, or what are the tasks? Where are we putting the task, as it was called, referred to? So there's a comment that's saying, that was what I said, then it's go ahead. Go ahead and say what you had to say. Well, what if,
I was just talking about, it's probably off the topic, but the fact that our Navajo Nation doesn't have a missing, like an official missing department, and how that is putting us all behind. Like, I know this database wants to start. Ms. Gee's been working on Navajo Nation missing persons for almost 9 years. And she does this free, and she does this on her own time, and she does this alone a lot of times, and she goes out and searches for people. And I feel like our tribe needs an official department. Like, they need an official person in an office to where they can go and get these resources, to where they can, find a victim's advocate. We don't have victims advocates on our Navajo Nation, really. I have my own organization, Missing Flowers, and I work with all sorts of people, and I work with Mesquite very closely, and that's what even I have family members in my community. I have 5 to 10 people that I know in my own community that are missing, and there's no resources for these families. There's nowhere to go. And even if this database is put together, where are these people still going to go? And so that's what we were talking about.
it is important. What you're thinking and what you're saying is important, and I think it is you being here, you being the support, and you're committed to making this happen too. Is one of your commitment to is when this happens, you would like to see, like how we had our victory circle. I think it was called departments where all victims will have support. So there's going to be established. A Navajo Nation Missing Persons Office. That is, that's part of the vision. So you being supportive of this initiative is, as long as that's there, it's going to continue on along that line. So it might not be, this is the springboard of actually how do we make that happen, what you're talking about. Is that you feel comfortable with that? So, okay.
I was just going to add, I saw the star on the commitments with the data for collaborating agencies. I think that it would be really important for Navajo Nation to collaborate with Sovereign Bodies Institute that's been actively creating a database of MMIW folks all across the United States. But I also wanted to add that the sheet in the middle between the commitments and the one on the end, I think it'd be important to add the bottom point in which our relatives, and then I can't read the rest of it, but to add that language into the commitment statement would be really important. And then I also just wanted to add, to just put in, I guess, plant the seed in everybody's brain that also, if we're gonna be talking about MMIW, then we also need to be talking about domestic violence. That means that we also need to be talking about the ways in which people report domestic violence and how survivors and perpetrators are looped into the same charges, on their records, which basically creates barriers for people wanting to report domestic violence, which is one of the first red flags for MMIW or MDR. And so I just wanted to add that in there as well. And so to just think about reforming our own policies to where that it's actually trauma informed, but also not basically creating more barriers for survivors to talk about their experiences.
All right, we have a wordsmith sitting here that's been listening, and she's actually typing all this stuff up all of this information up.
I'm sorry, I'm having a senior moment here. Yesterday was my birthday. I'm 61. It sucks. So, I'm sorry. I'm forgetting. Hope. I'm sorry, Hope. I know you. Sorry. What Hope is saying, I think, we don't want to be specific in this statement. We want it to be general that can cover what Hope is saying. Okay, so we want a large general statement that covers everything. And so when it covers everything, we can then point it back to it and say, here's the focus, here's the bullet points that fits under this umbrella. So this is what I have, and there's words here that's missing, so you guys can brainstorm it and you can disagree with me. So what I'm saying is that we are committed to a vision of a healthy nation and communities where all of our people enjoy. What do people enjoy? You know, what is it that what we strive for? We are committed to a vision of a healthy nation and communities where our people enjoy blank and prosper, whatever, and that we affirm our Diné principles of k'eh, so that we may continue to journey on sa'ah wajon. And this one is not strong enough, this next sentence. We find it intolerable that Diné experience missing and murdered relatives, and that our families and relatives cannot heal or revitalize until all of our people are safe and protected. We are committed to actively declaring support for Council Delegate Amber Crotty and all constituents who are dedicated to justice for our missing and murdered relatives. And then the next statement can be more specific about the things on the commitments. What do you guys think? I don't know what to put after enjoy.
I think.
And then we could have an action statement, you know, follow through the utilization and analysis of collected current data from partner agencies and orgs and partners, like what that says, and through community-based strategic planning. Because once you create a strategic plan, the strategic plan will have all of the task goals and objectives, but somebody has to sit down and create a strategic plan.
We call for that because Amber is taking this to our leaders, okay? She's taking it to the structure. And so we call for our Diné leaders, we call for all leaders, the U.S. and the Navajo Nation, we call on them to affirm and support this initiative, this is actually a community-based initiative because we're all sitting in here. So I think that, let me write that down, and then you get more focus to what you're asking for. The first thing you're asking for after what I hope you guys just took down what I just said because I can't remember. The next thing after that is the commitment to collaboration, okay? Because Amber can't do this by herself. She's got to have collaboration from all of us. So after what I just said, and then the collaboration, and then those points about the Data Institute and all of that, okay? So we're going from the triangle.
Okay, so the other thing that we need to remember is to go back to the focus question. Okay, so what steps, action items do we need to accomplish to apply for discretionary funds to begin creating an MMDR Institute by October 2019? Okay, now let me read your what you have so far. Okay, so what she has so far, it says, we are committed to a vision of a healthy nation and communities where all our people enjoy a safe and, what did you say? Safe and, somebody else said something, safe and happy life and prosper, and that we affirm our Diné principles of k'eh so that we may continue to journey on Sahana, I can never say this, I'm sorry. I have to get the timing right. We find it intolerable that Diné experience missing and murdered relatives and that our families and relatives cannot heal or revitalize until all of our people are safe and protected. We are committed to actively declaring support for Council Delegate Amber Crotty and all the constituents who are dedicated to justice for our missing and murdered relatives. We call for the Navajo Nation and our leaders and the United States, who has declared responsibility to its indigenous nations and people to support and affirm this initiative. How's that for that focus question? What steps and actions do we need to accomplish to apply for discretionary funds to begin creating an MMDR Data Institute by October 2019? How does that fit together? How does that fit together? Does that fit together? Does that, what we created just now, does that fit with this? Does that lead us to this end? Partially? Okay, so what is missing? Just give me one word. What's missing? One word. Goals and objectives. Okay, so right now we're doing a commitment statement. So we are committed to, and then that whole thing that I just read, do we want to, what we're going to do after lunch is we're actually going to create the action items that are going to lead to that. So we don't need to do that part. Okay, what is your comment?
That we support the development of the MMDR.
Okay, so that we support the development of the MMDR Data Institute. Okay, that's the main thing of the MMDR Data Institute. Okay, and that's it. Okay. Actually, I'll read it to you. Okay. So here's our focus question. What steps and action items do we need to accomplish to apply for discretionary funds to begin creating an MMDR Data Institute by October 2019? And so where we're going after this, after lunch, after we take a lunch break, we are going to create the actual action items, and that's where some of our objectives and action items will come from. Okay, so now here's our commitment statement. We are committed to a vision of a healthy nation and communities where all our people enjoy and prosper, and that we affirm our Diné principle of K'e so that we may continue to journey on Sahanage B'K'ehajon. We find it intolerable that Diné experience missing and murdered relatives, and that our families and relatives cannot heal or revitalize until all of our people are safe and protected. We are committed to actively declaring support for Council Delegate Amber Crotty and all constituents who are dedicated to justice for our missing and murdered relatives. We call for the Navajo Nation, our leaders, and the United States, who has declared responsibility to its indigenous nations and people, to support and affirm this initiative, to seek redress for the inconsolable grief of our people. We support the development of the MMDR Institute. Yes? Bueno? Yay! Okay, right on. That's our commitment statement. Could you email that to Jolene?
The commitment statement, when we come back from lunch, it'll be typed up and it's going to be written, and we're going to also probably write it on a chart, and then we're going to move into it's called key actions. So in all facilitation, this is like the hump, the hill. This is usually the most straining part. So you've overcome that. So we need key actions. And those of you that want it, like, this is what I want in there, this is what statement I want, the action that's going to be taken, and then to the viewers too, is that we can, I don't want to take it away how we're going to do it, but the key actions is where that is actually doing something, or what we would like to do to move forward. So we're going to be doing that after we come back.
And before we break for lunch, we have a few words from Vanessa Dundon.
Jennifer. Yat Shea Vanessa Dundon Yanisha Ado Susie Desba Holya Sina Jiniashon Belagana Bushes Chin Sandra Kinedashache Belagana Dashanele. Hello, my relatives. My name is Vanessa. Also known as Susie Desba, was the woman who was shot in the eye at Standing Rock a couple years ago, on November 20th, 2016. I have a bandana from my brother Norm Sands from California, and I would like to present it to Jennifer. I have one for Amber, but she's not here, so I'm going to wait until I catch her next time. But I just want to thank you guys for all the work that you're doing. I wish I actually had more and that I could give out to everybody here, because you guys are all, you know, a piece of this. And without all of you, none of this would be happening. So. And they always say, you know, why do you mask up? Why do you mask up, you know? And these ones are actually the new ones, and this will probably cover her mouth. But it's about, you know, it's about doing the work and not having to be recognized all the time for the work that you do. So if anybody says, you know, why are you trying to look like a thug or whatever, it's not about that. It's about doing the work and not having to put your face on it every time, and it's very beautiful that way. So yeah, and I have a page, you guys can check it out, Missing Flowers. I do the men also, and that's very important for Navajo Nation because we lose twice as many men on our Navajo Nation than we do women. So, thank you.
Thank you, and I just want to thank Vanessa Dundon for all the work that she's done. And I also want to say, I was talking to my colleague who works here at NAU, and she told me that her and her daughter were coming through the airport in Sky Harbor recently, and she was stopped by security, and she was asked about some Indian from India ritual or something, I forgot what it was. And so the place that we live right now, the landscape that we live right now, is we're very much subjected to state terror. Okay, and Vanessa here, I want to honor her for knowing firsthand what that state terror looks like and feels like, because as Indigenous people, we are always under siege. Okay, so thank you, Vanessa.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right, let's take an hour and a half for lunch. Oh, wait, hold on. I'll give it to Joey.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. That's basically what I was going to say. We are going to have an hour and a half for lunch, so if everyone could come back at 2 o'clock. Thank you all for your contributions and the great brainstorming and everything. So let's recharge, come back at this at 2, and we will see you at that time. So thank you.
I don't know how to turn the thing off. Oh, he said you had it. Okay. I think last